right, welcome everybody. We're going to just give a few minutes for folks to join us today, and we're happy to have you with us.
Yay, excited to be here. Happy Monday, everybody.
Yeah.
Stop sharing while we get introed and things.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We'll give it a couple minutes. Just we have a big group that registered for this, and so we'll give 2 minutes and then we'll get started, I promise.
Yay, so good to see everybody.
Yeah. It always seems like this minute, like that you're waiting, is such a long.
I know,
Right?
in Zoom time, like in back in the day, you could be like 5 minutes late, and that, like, if it's in real life, but that's just not really that big a deal. But
Right.
if you're on a Zoom call, it's like forever.
Right. I know. I mean, people like looking at, everybody got here. So yeah, give it one more minute and then we'll get cooking.
We've all adapted, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's a good group.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Janelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Living my best life.
Another day living the dream. Woohoo!
Better than I deserve, whatever one,
It's good to be us.
Okay, well, why don't we'll kind of get a rolling start so that because we've got lots of great content that Janelle has prepared for us today. So welcome everybody. My name is Sharon Goodson, if we haven't met before, and I work at the Beach Tag Foundation. And this is a program of San Diego Gives University. So yay, you are all involved in San Diego Gives, either officially yet, and I know there's a couple folks who are still working on registrations. We're happy to have you. This is one of 25 possible learning opportunities that folks involved with San Diego Gives can take advantage of. We have about 6 or 7 workshops like this. We have a whole series of office hours. to keep an eye on, and that's a great place to come and have questions answered. We also have opportunities to be connected with a mentor or get some one-on-one help. So let us know about that. And good news too with San Diego Gives is we have already passed our goal of nonprofits registered. So our goal was to have 250 nonprofits registered, and I think we are at something like 254. Lauren, is that about right? Something like that. Yeah. Nonprofits go through, you register, as you all have probably seen, you register, and then there's a little bit of a like a due diligence part that the nonprofit committee takes care of. But in any case, we're doing great, and we're super excited and really happy to have the opportunity to work with you. So for today's workshop, I'm very happy to introduce Janelle Ford, who many of you know. She's known to many of us as a real leader in our nonprofit community and a fantastic trainer in the world of fundraising for fundraising professionals. She's worked at UC San Diego Extension for many years, has her own firm, Fordable Fundraising, which provides grant support and strategic planning and budgeting and a whole host of wonderful services for nonprofits. We're working with her with San Diego Gives, and it's been a great help. We are recording the workshop, so we will be happy to share the recording for folks who haven't been able to make it, and it will also be posted on the San Diego Gives University website page on online. And we're also happy to share the slides. So we will send those out with the recording probably in the next day or two. So you will get that if you registered. Otherwise, it's also on the website, as I said. This is an interactive workshop, and we'd love folks, I'm sure Janelle mentioned more about that. We'd love folks to share ideas, ask questions. So we'll be keeping an eye on that in the chat. So let us know. I also wanted to introduce my wonderful colleague, Paige Milgram Hills from Leech Tag Foundation, who is our wonderful support today, just in case anything goes awry with tech. Now, because Paige is here, nothing will go awry with tech. If she wasn't here, then that, so it's kind of like throwing salt over my shoulder. Anyway, Janelle, I turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for the invite. And congratulations on the success. I actually have a bell in my office. I'll ring it here just for things like this. Yay! So congratulations. I'm excited to see what happens in September for the big day. So today I'm here to talk to you guys about prospect search. So the title is, tactics for donor prospecting. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And as Sharon said, this is interactive. There's going to be a couple of times where I'm going to ask you some questions and, invite you to engage. And along the way, if something comes up and you feel like you have something to share to add value to the training, please feel free. I know we all learn together, and I too have things to learn. So I appreciate it. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so okay. So our key objectives for the training today is to really, recognize that, there are 4 types of donors that are out there. I want to share why they give, kind of just like bottom line, like why do they give, and really what do you need to consider before approaching them for a gift. I mean, it's really distilled and pretty quick, but it kind of will frame up the, what we'll be talking about when we go to search for prospects. I want to talk to you about some of the best online tools that are out there that will help you conduct the research. And then I'm going to talk to you about how do you manage the prospect search process, and how do you rank and prioritize the prospects. I think that will be super helpful. Even knowing how to prioritize your sources, really can help you understand how to best spend your time, which is, that's maximizing your time is what we need to do. Okay, so let's launch into what I call, giving truth. So I've been in fundraising for more than 20 years, and major gifts, grants, direct mail, you name it. I've sort of dipped myself in it. And these truths are things that I've just distilled about fundraising along the way. So here we go. So the first is the first commandment of fundraising, which is thou shalt know thy donor. What I mean by that is that you have to go where your prospect is, your potential supporter is, understand who they are, why they care about the cause, and recognize that. And then, the other part of this is to follow instructions. That's really important too. So that's about knowing thy donor. So that's the first commandment of fundraising. So who really gives? There's really 4 donor types, if you will. Individuals, foundations, and corporations. Those are traditional philanthropic sources, but then there's also, government. Government is a major source of funding for a lot of nonprofits. And in my experience, a lot of times those grant proposals and that work ends up falling to the development department. So it's another donor type, if you will. You have to approach them a little bit differently, but it's something to consider. So another giving truth is that people give where they live. This is a really important truth. Right now, I'm working with a couple of groups who are, they're headquartered in California, but they are serving internationally, and this really comes into play. You really, from a prospect search perspective, you really have to sift and sort a little bit more carefully to find those sources that are going to fund international work, because people tend to give right in their local community. Geography is a really big factor for consideration for giving. Another giving truth is that people align their support with their passions often. It's a heart decision. If they say that they like the environment, and you are, let's see, I got to think of it. If you are serving the homeless and they just want to fund the environment, and you try to, and you're trying to get them to fund your homeless shelter, you're barking up the wrong tree. You just don't go there, let it go. Just know that people align their support with their passions. It's really a truth of fundraising. Another truth is that people are going to say yes to giving when there is a connection, when you have a connection there. If there's a connection, and that connection doesn't have to be like the CEO, the CEO, it can be an employee that just introduces the nonprofit to their company, and that will just raise the odds of you getting a gift tremendously. I like to call it, we warm it up. You got to warm it up. It's not cold. It's like you warm it up. So that's important to know. And that the other idea that I like to talk about in fundraising is the Pareto principle. This is really the 80-20 rule. I love it. It really is present in the work in nonprofits. So Pareto was, he was an economist, and he started noticing this pattern in the world, that 20% of what is put in generates 80% of what comes out. And so when you look at charitable giving, 80% of the money tends to come from 20% of the sources. So what that means is that you've got just a few supporters who are really funding most of the work. As I've looked at donor data across lots of different nonprofits, this is generally true. I mean, it usually is about 70-30, 70 to 80, but it's pretty much, you've got just a few donors that are giving you the majority of the money. So Pareto, some of the examples he saw in the world was like 20% of criminals commit 80% of crimes. 20% of drivers cause all 80% of the traffic accidents. Some of the nonprofit world examples I've thought of, 80% of funding comes from 20% of donors, like we said, but then how about 80% of volunteer, board and committee work is done by 20% of the group. So there's just a couple of people that's doing most of the work, for better or for worse. So I guess knowing this principle, I would recommend spending 80% of your time cultivating 20% of those top 20% of your donors, and you'll probably you will raise more money. So another giving truth is that people who give, they don't give to just one charity. They give on average to multiple, 4.5 charities. And so what that means is sometimes you think, oh, we can't ask them, they're given to that group over there. But honestly, I think you got to give donors options, and they're sprinkling their money around to lots of different charities. So why not yours? Another truth about fundraising, as you think about it, is that for every one gift, you need 3 to 5 donor prospects. So if you want a $10,000 gift, you need 3 to 5 people who are capable of writing that check for $10,000. So this said another way, that your odds are about 20 to 30% of receiving funding. But I think that those odds, if you think about the odds of getting the money, it really does, it can change dramatically with a connector, with a relationship, because fundraising is not really about money. It really is about relationships. And so if you go in cold and nobody's had a conversation with anybody, but you've created alignment, that they've given to organizations that are similar, that they are in your local community, and that they're going to care about what you do, that's, those odds are going to be a little less, but if you like 20 to 30%, but if you have somebody who can create some sort of connection where you can have a conversation with somebody and share information about your program or project, your odds can go up tremendously. And if they've funded you in the past, obviously those odds go up to, 90% or higher, because oftentimes you can renew that funding. So, but this is a very important consideration as you're sort of planning for fundraising and creating a goal. So, all right, so next we're going to talk about, I'm going to just go through each of these donor types and just talk about identifying. I'm going to talk a little bit about each source, and then we're going to talk about what it takes to sort of identify potential sources in each category. So first we'll talk about individuals. Let me stop here for a second. Does anybody have any questions before I move on, or thoughts or comments? No? Okay, I'll just keep going. All right, so let's talk about individuals. So when we're talking about individuals, this is board members, volunteers, employees, and I actually would put churches and membership organizations in this category, because they kind of tend to give in a similar kind of way as individuals. Churches, churches and membership organizations may technically be companies. They just don't give they give more like individuals. So I put them in this category. So the beliefs about charity individuals, it really gives them a sense of purpose. It validates their life experience, and it is mostly directed locally. They want to give, in their local area. What do they want? They really want impact. They want to know that you have impact in the community. They want to create social connections with each other. It's about their purpose and leaving a legacy in the world. So the best way to connect, this is just really quick. I just want to shoot here's individuals. The best way to connect with individuals is, success stories, sharing your impact data. It really is about your impact. Invite them to events, ask them to volunteer. And so now we'll talk about how to identify individual sources. When we think about identifying individual sources, we're going to step through an activity that it's not just exclusively for individuals, but this is the best way I have found to identify individuals who are going to who could potentially support you. Keep in mind that while foundations and corporations and government are like, I don't know, institutional bodies, for lack of a better way to say it, they're full of individuals. They wouldn't be able to do what they do without individuals. So just keep that in mind as we step through this. Okay, so who are your stakeholders? This is the part where you interact. So what are the categories of stakeholders? Feel free to chime in. Whoa. Let me just stop sharing. Okay.
So nobody's jumping in. I'll jump in.
Okay, great.
So our stakeholders are our families that have that attend the preschool or school groups.
Mhm.
Our volunteers are stakeholders. Those are the ones right off the bat. The visitors that come to the Discovery Center and enjoy the animals. So yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? I'm looking for stakeholder groups.
Board members.
Board members. Yes. Any else? Any others?
We're seeing
Okay.
some in the chat too that folks are
Okay.
chatting. Mhm.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. I got a list here too. So just to get you to think about. Okay. So the clients, obviously clients are the people that you serve, families of clients, board members, neighbors, your current supporters, elected officials, employees, similarly situated nonprofits, or collaborating partners. Those are potential collaborating partners. Members of the media, the business community where you deliver your services, religion or the churches, houses of worship, in-kind donors, which I guess that could be any of these people, but it's a little bit different. Volunteers, vendors to your organization. So all of those are stakeholders, and this is where you're going to find your individual supporters. They care about the work that they care about the work of your organization. They are most inclined to support you. Okay, so I have this exercise that I'm going to go through. It's kind of a brainstorm activity, and then I'm going to pause and give you guys a few minutes to do your own brainstorm activity, and then I want you guys to show me what you come up with, and you guys can share what your brainstorm looks like on your paper. Okay, so I'll just step through this and show you how this works. So we've got a cause. So the cause is homelessness. And it really is homelessness is really about the lack of suitable shelter. Of course, there's all kinds of other things that go into it, but it really is about housing. It's about housing. And so who cares? who really cares about this issue and who is impacted by the issue. So I've came up with my own little brainstorm here. So the businesses in the area, they're impacted, then the neighborhoods, employers and the hiring managers that are in those neighborhoods, landlords and property owners are part of this, the solution, or the they're part of the solution. Landlords are, retail and other industries. So I'm kind of just creating some subgroups. When you think about businesses, that's a pretty broad group. And so these are some sort of subsets from that. Housing developers are another, potential group that what might be part of the solution. They might care about the issue. Members of the local media, civic groups and having them be involved. And then I named some, the Junior League and the Rotary Club. The federal government has an interest in the homelessness issue. And so elected officials obviously care. Churches, synagogues, and other houses of worship, most religions and most faith walks care about supporting people in greatest need. And so, they have an interest. Formerly homeless or past experience with poverty, people who have been there can, they can be part of the solution. The schools, children are, the schools are a big institution. A lot of children who are impacted with homelessness, they are very much a part of the solution. Board members, staff, volunteers, personal friends, families, colleagues, neighbors, families. And then like specifically seniors, youth, all, these different categories, different service providers. So other nonprofit providers, and that's a big long list. And as far as this issue goes, there's housing providers, there's emergency shelters, there's the folks who are doing food, the hunger, the food bank, the domestic violence is often or can be part of being homeless. In fact, if you're fleeing a domestic violence situation, you're automatically considered homeless and qualify for any homeless service. Behavioral health, providers, they play a role in this, obviously criminal justice. So these are all the players that, that care about this issue. And these individual or these bodies, these groups, they're full of individuals that you need to talk to if this is your cause. You really should establish relationships with all of these. So for this brainstorm, the next piece you would do, and then there's foundations. I forgot that one. Okay, what else is on here? Okay, so then the next thing you would do is that you would actually start to think about who do you know in these groups. So members of, I know Bob, he works for the, Channel 5 or, and maybe I can have a conversation with him. The Rotary, Sally, she's a Rotary member. I think that they do some things, so it's really about, this is a really great way to identify those individuals that you could potentially approach for giving. So any thoughts or questions about this? Has anybody done a brainstorm like this before? No? Well, feel free to chime in here. Come on, folks, just get off mute and just let me know.
Yeah, I think this is really, really helpful. Sorry if I'm echoing. But it's hard to know how to tackle. I think for some people it gets overwhelming to think about this, but it is really helpful.
Yeah. So it's I mean, it doesn't have to be pretty. I know it's kind of messy, right? It's just like, what is all this? But I think the whole idea of is to get it all out of your head and to think about all of these different groups. And then from there, it's, lifting, like creating a list. Obviously, this is not, you're not going to, this is not functional as far as working with it, but it really does get the juices flowing about how do you identify individuals. And so I want to just take a minute and well, how about we take, I'll take 5 minutes and have you guys create your own sphere of influence chart. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper and stop sharing here for a minute. So you take a piece of paper and in the middle, you're going to put your, put your cause area or the name of your organization. And, think about who is served by your organization. Think about, who you serve, what services you provide, and then begin to just do this brainstorm and create bubbles, create groups. And then as another name comes in your mind, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't, there's no right or wrong here. It's really just about whatever comes up in your mind, just create a bubble and put it in a bubble. And once you get going with it, eventually you'll have more and more come into your head and it's wild. So let's just take like 5 minutes and we'll have you create your own brainstorm map. So, and at the end, I want you guys to share your map. Maybe I'll come up with a prize. Should we set a timer?
Sure, we can do that. The other thing I was going to add too is that, with San Diego Gives kind of in the background of this, that and this workshop isn't just for San Diego Gives at all. It's, really to talk about prospecting, but San Diego Gives does give an opportunity to prospect in a broad way and to look at some of the peer-to-peer opportunities that come along that, maybe a little softer launch into some of the relationships that you may want to develop with donors. So that could be something too to kind of think about of who, as as you think about this campaign, who might it be shared with, how could, and what stakeholders also could probably share that information and go forward. So.
Yeah, you could potentially, you could do a brainstorm about San Diego Gives and how, how to share the word about, San Diego Gives with your constituents, or who would you share it with, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Okay, I can't wait to see your designs. You can even get colors out if you want. Sometimes that helps. Okay, how's it coming? Give you a couple more, 2 more minutes. Okay. Are you guys ready? Yay. Okay. Who wants to just hold up their brainstorm chart and share what you got? You can share what you come up with, or you can just share what it looks like. Woo, there we go. All right. Cheryl, where do you work? What do you do?
I'm a board member for Groundwork San Diego. And so when I'm trying to do this brainstorming here, it gives me a split thought because we have focuses on education of students and trying to give them STEAM education with San Diego Unified, as well as though we have restoration and climate safe action activities that we're doing in the neighborhood. So I'm kind of like, okay, let's see if those people that would care about one side would probably care about the other two. Do I have overlap or do I have something unique and different on each side? So I didn't finish, I'm sure, but I got to start.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Okay, who else? Who else wants to show their chart? I think these can become really fun. Yay! All right, Donna. Where do you work, Donna? Or where are you?
I'm a board member with Lived Experiences
Okay.
and in Oceanside. And for me, this is it's an opportunity to kind of get my brain straight because you know I've like Cheryl said, often we're offering services that are slightly different to what we think of as different constituencies, but there is an intersectionality there. And as I was doing this, I thought, when I feel like overwhelmed and pressed for time, it's like looking at the intersectionality allows you to maybe make the most of that time.
Mhm.
And also, as I was doing this, I thought, it would be really good to do this with the rest of the board, this exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Have each of them do one.
Good idea.
For
Good
sure,
idea.
for sure. Anybody else want to share?
I think Flora did.
Hi, I am not a board member. I work for MAC and I oversee a number of different programs. So MAC is an anti-poverty organization and we really provide a lot of different services. So when I was doing this exercise, I was thinking about, based on the data, who we're predominantly serving. And we're working with families, many with females who are head of household. So single parent households, a lot of small children in those households. They're living in, they're extremely low income. So they're living in true poverty here in San Diego County, and a majority are people of color. So I thought about who we serve. And so I listed off a number of different entities that would care. Like on the county side, you have CPS, right? We have also the Live Well initiative. And then on the Department of Labor side, there's the Women's Bureau. And then we have quite a few women's clubs locally, and I would say women's business associations. I think of foundations like the I think it's Casey Foundation, which is national, and I know that they're very family oriented. Our schools, our K through 12 system, and then businesses, because so long as women don't have access to things like childcare and their housing unstable, they're probably not going to be able to consistently show up to work. So I was thinking about those employers. And then of course, if we don't build the financial capacity of our families, particularly women with children, they're not going to be participating in the local economy as much. So maybe not buying as many services or purchasing as much through retail businesses. They may not make their rent with landlords. So I feel like our stakeholder group or potential donor group is pretty wide, but I think it would be anyone who's really interested in investing in the material stability of families with small children. So that's
Yeah.
a starting point.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You can do this exercise with, yeah, when you think about different programs, services, and their intentions, you could do this for each one of those. If you have a health related program, that might be a little different, that you might have different bubbles come up, for that versus, an education related, so it really is a helpful exercise just to sort of get it all out, like what are the possibilities? And then from there, that, you're not looking for strangers here, you're looking for kindred spirits. These people care about the same thing that you do, and that they care about the solution you're providing. So this is a great way to identify potential individuals for your organization. So all right, moving on here. Next we'll talk about, let's see what's up next. I think it's foundations. Okay, let's talk about foundations. So foundations are 501c3s. They are also 501c3s, just like nonprofits, public charities. Only, foundations, they're really a vehicle for giving. So someone of affluence, whether it's a family or a company, they really want to give back. And so they set up a foundation, and they will deposit money, and that money is, the government says, okay, we're not going to tax you on that money, but you have to distribute at least 5% of the assets every year to other 501c3 charities or, public charities. So when you think about it, on the public charity side, it's really about delivering the services, the boots on the ground, providing the solutions, and the foundations are really wanting to invest in those solutions. And so this is a big source of funding for a lot of nonprofits. So they really believe that the public charities are, you are doing the work. You know what the solutions are. You are the subject matter expert of those solutions, and we care about it. We have a heart for it. And sometimes it honors or validates, personal experience, whether it's the family, the family has certain giving interests, or it's like maybe a corporate foundation, like let's say a grocery store. They might have a foundation where they like to give money, and oftentimes, because it's a corporate foundation, they will align that with their industry. So they're going to give to hunger, if that makes sense. So it honors or validates their personal experience. And it's directed locally. They often are, it's about the community that I'm in. It's about where we have a presence. That's a very important consideration for giving from foundations. What do they want? They really want measurable results, and they want financial sustainability. Foundations they want to avoid becoming a sugar daddy to your organization. They will, most of them will not fund a project in full. They want to see that you're getting funding from lots of different places. And so because what's the good thing about that is that if they invest in you, if they make a gift to you, that means they're investing in you. And so if you build that relationship, they will make a gift every year. You just, they really do view it as a long-term engagement. And it's up to you to approach them and once you get your foot in the door, and to sustain that giving. So the best way to connect with them is to, make sure that you are aligned with their giving. It's nice. They tell you exactly what they like. Sometimes that's not as easy with individuals. Sometimes it's not as obvious with individuals. Sometimes individuals may say things out one side their mouth and behave differently. So that's, so foundations can be very clear. This is what we like. Here's our instructions. And so follow those instructions. Obviously they like the success stories and impact. It's all donor types love the measurable impact. The better you get at telling the stories of your impact, the more you're going to be able to leverage resources from any source. And hosting a site visit is another great way to connect with them. If you can get them in your place and get them on a tour, that really moves that relationship forward. So let's talk about, how do you identify foundation sources? So one of the really great things about foundations is because they're a 501c3, the information that is also public. So it's out there. It's out there in a variety of ways. So there are some free tools that I'm going to talk about a little bit. And then there's obviously some subscription tools, and we'll talk about a few of those as well. So some of the free search tools you can use, obviously Google, Google's amazing. Google is a really great start. It's a starting point. Sometimes I'll find things online and I'm not quite sure about what I'm looking at. And so sometimes I'll just pick out keywords and look for it a different way via Google. GuideStar is, it's all Candid. Candid is the name of the group that now has GuideStar and the Foundation Directory Online, which are all nonprofit search tools. So GuideStar is a great source for looking at other nonprofits and also foundations. That you can set up a free account with that. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, and I actually have it teed up here. So let me see if I can share Okay. I'm going to share with you a couple of these freebie things. So this is Grantmakers.io. So a couple of years ago, so like I said, this is public information, and it comes from the IRS. And a couple of years ago, they made all of the Form 990 data available. And this is all programming tech stuff, so I don't really know all about it, but but some folks have taken that data and created these free online sources. So you can, and basically what they're doing is they've farmed all of this 990 data. So you can search a couple of different ways, and this is free, and you can get a little bit of information about these sources. Candid, which is where they have Foundation Directory Online and GuideStar. You can create a free account with GuideStar and search for the foundation. They'll provide a basic, let me just do this. Let me just go there. Anybody have a foundation they want us to research? Anybody?
How about the Bezos Fund?
Oh yeah, Bezos. Do they have a foundation?
I think so. I mean, and Melinda Gates, right? They've been generous in a variety of ways. So I don't know if it's easy to find out what they really focus on per se, but.
Yeah, do you want, okay, which one? Which one do you want me to look for?
Let's try Bezos.
Is it BESOS? I should know this, but.
Isn't there a Z in there? I don't know.
I should know this. I see his name in the media all the time. We'll see what comes up. Nope. Okay, that's not right.
I think it's like B. Oh, no.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, Bezos Family Foundation. Okay, so this says it's out of Washington, and it looks like their assets are about $156 million. So, so this is pretty, you know, it gives you a little bit of information, and oh, and they do have the website here. So obviously go to the website. I would go to the website first, because that's like knowing thy donor. Like they're telling you stuff on their website. But one of the things that GuideStar will help you do, so let's say you go to the Bezos Foundation website and they say, we like exactly what you do. And we give lots of money to it every single year. And you're like, yay, that's so cool. We qualify, and I want to apply to them. How much do I ask for? This is where GuideStar is a great tool, is that you can actually go into their, this is geeky and nerdy, but it really, 990s really have some great information. And once you get familiar with them a little bit, you'll know right where to go. But they will actually, every 990 for the foundation will publish where they're giving their money. And so we'll see if there's anything on this one. I don't see, no, I don't see it. I don't see the list of, says it shares their holdings, you know, where do they have their money? But it doesn't look like there's any money that's been distributed there on that one. So let's go back. Let's find one that's, we know they're giving away a lot of money. One that doesn't have, like if we were to look up the Bill and Melinda Gates 990, it probably has, I don't know, it's probably 1,000-page 990. Let's just look up one that's local. Let's go to the Cushman Foundation. How's that? Okay, so they have a total assets of $32 million. So the asset size is important because the law says that they have to distribute at least 5% of their assets a year. So if you do the math, that kind of gives you an idea of their capacity for making gifts and you know how much they will need to give. And honestly, that 5% is that's what's required by the government. But remember, these foundations are vehicles for giving. This is why they set them up in the first place. And so they invest the money in the market, and that's a pretty low return, 5%. That's pretty basic, you know. So there may be more than that, is what I'm trying to say. So let's look at the Cushman. Let's see what's going on here with them. Okay, so in the 990, you can see, let me see if there's, I'm gonna find their board list. So this tells you how much money they have. And then they usually will give you the board list in here, which can be very helpful. So Stephen Cushman is and his address. So you kind of get the names of the directors. I have found, you know, I've been to lots of board meetings, and you pass out a list of groups. Does anybody know anybody in these groups? And if you just list the group Cushman Foundation, everyone's just gonna be like, nah, no, they don't know any, nobody knows anybody. But sometimes if you can pull out the board members, you might be able to find some connectors there. And so, okay. So this has all the information about their money, and then at the bottom, they should have a list of, oh my gosh, it's not in here. How come it's not in here? Usually they have a list of who they fund. Very curious.
think it's because they might have granted to the Jewish Community Foundation or and because they have a fund there and then did a lot of granting through that is my hunch with this particular one.
Well, they wouldn't have to, if they have to file a 990 though, that's gotta be. So what you're saying is that this is a fund through the,
No, I'm just saying in this case, I think they will probably have, they probably wouldn't list all the grantees as much as they would list the community foundations in which they also have a fund, because this is going back a couple years. But anyway, it's, so anyhow, that's the.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so that can, well, that's a good point that you bring up. Like, for example, the San Diego Foundation, a community foundation, they are avoiding having to set up their own 501c3 by establishing a fund with the San Diego Foundation. So that same affluent family or group or people, they want to give back, but they don't want the hassle factor of running a foundation. I mean, if you think about it, they got to, get it all, they got to incorporate, there's all these, administrative things they got to do in order to be legit as a foundation. And they don't want to do that. And so they're like, I just want to give. So then they set up a fund within a community foundation, and then they can still say where that money goes. So when you go to the San Diego Foundation and you say that they're like, I don't know, I'm guessing $88 billion. I mean, it's a really large asset size that is spread across hundreds of people who have set up funds with them. And each one of those people have their own giving interests. So, well, this is a bust as far as showing you GuideStar. Sorry about that, you guys. Let me instead share, I'll go back to my slide deck. We use, for prospect search for foundations, we use, sorry guys, we use Foundation Directory Online, which is a really great tool that allows us to, get the information GuideStar wasn't going to give us. I apologize. That GrantMakers.io is it's free. Some of these free ones they're good. They'll get you started. But if you really want to get serious, sometimes you need to subscribe. But I would caution you that there is a way that as a nonprofit, you can get access to the Foundation Directory Online for free. So I want to make sure that you know about this. So Nonprofit Management Solutions is a group in town that has what's called, so what Foundation Directory Online has done is, okay, let me back up. Foundation Directory Online is, they take all of this foundation data and they have this really easy to use database that helps you just look at all these, what they like to give to, how to approach them. They make it easy. And of course, the subscription fees, about $1,500 a year. So it's not cheap. And so if you're a small nonprofit, you don't want to spend that money. So Nonprofit Management Solution has a partnership with Foundation Directory to provide access to the database if you are a nonprofit for free. In the past, that was facilitated by you going to their office and they would have it on their computer, and you could, you could email yourself all these profiles for all these different donors. I don't think that's happening anymore. On the website, it sort of indicated that you could email them for some information. Does anybody have any information about what they're doing these days with that? Has anybody gone to Nonprofit Management Solutions?
Are you asking about, I'm sorry, Janelle, about?
The access to the Foundation Directory Online.
Yes. Yeah, they're doing it remotely still. And you get access for 24 hours, like not like I start today and I go out and I come back in tomorrow. It has to be like a direct 24 hours together, like starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 6 a.m. Not that you sit there for 24 hours and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Yeah,
have to go to Nonprofit Management Solutions to get a login. And all I've had to do is just ask them, and then I use the same one every time.
that's great. So
So I
that's,
think it's like info at MP. Sorry.
no, keep going.
I was just saying it's like info at MP Solutions, whatever their .org. And then they can just saying I want access to FTO and they can do that.
So let's put a link in the chat, and then you guys can look it up, because that's a really great resource. I'm going to actually share with you what it looks like. So there's their website, and I logged into Foundation. I have a subscription to Foundation Directory Online. So I just wanted to just give you a sneak peek as to like, what are you actually looking at here? It's much better than the bust I just had on the GuideStar. I don't know what's going on there. Why did those 990s not have those they're giving? Usually they list all of the grants that they've made and who they've given them to. And that can help you see that they who they like to fund. So you're going to look for similarly, you're going to see if they give to similarly situated charities to see if they're a good fit. So that just didn't happen. I apologize for that. Okay.
Janelle, there's also been a couple of questions about, let's see, are foundations all required to give 5% of assets?
Yes. Yes, that is a requirement of the government. So that is the pain for the pleasure of not being taxed on that money. So they're taking their own money. Let's say they take $1 million, they put it in this foundation. They're not going to be taxed on that anymore. But the government says, okay, we're not going to tax you, but you got to distribute at least 5% a year. This has been where I don't know if you guys have followed any of the donor advised fund, that this is where that issue comes up, is that currently there's no distribution requirement for donor advised funds. And so they're just kind of sitting there and they're just accumulating all this interest, and, and there's a lot of needs out there. So, okay, so this is what Foundation Directory Online looks like. And so let's just, let's try the Cushman Foundation again and see what comes up here. It's really a neat tool. So this will make it worth your while to get that 24-hour pass with Nonprofit Management Solutions. So it gives you a list of everybody who's received funds, how much money they've received, what they like to fund, funding interests, about their board, how to approach them, whether they accept applications, their total asset size, and their board, and so and some of the grants that maybe they've funded, and then there's you can go to there's a profile. No, you can download these as profiles. Seems like there's another profile, but I'm not going to go there because that'll take too much time. But this is a really awesome tool that you can use to just try to find foundation sources. Foundations are a really wonderful source of funds for nonprofits. And they are, if you find the right ones, they are your kindred spirits. So they are in it with you. They are interested in funding your solutions. So, okay, so now, hold please. I'm having sharing problems. Okay, what am I sharing here? Okay, all right, back in business. Sorry about that. Okay. So we have the free online tools, and then of course there's lots of subscription-based tools. So we talked about, you do have to pay for Foundation Online, but you can get it free. There's GrantStation, which is okay. If you have a subscription to the Chronicle of Philanthropy, you can access GrantStation for free. It has these profiles of, you can do searches and search for foundations. It has some foundations and some corporations. It's okay. It's okay. It's free. But it's free via the Chronicle of Philanthropy. And the Chronicle of Philanthropy is really only, it's like, it's not a really expensive subscription. So that's a way to go to. And then I just went to AFP Icon last week and learned about a tool called iWave, which I've heard is really awesome. Wealth Engine is another one that can help you with online searching. Any others out there that people are using? List them in the chat. Moving on. Okay. So once again, information's public. I would review their giving history and amounts. Their asset size really can convey their capacity for giving. And then I would really look at their board leaders and as for possible connections. Why do they say no to you, to your giving? Well, they don't know you yet. And so, you have to figure out how to get in front of them. If they say no to you and they're aligned and they're in your local area, you just have to recognize that it's not a no, it's a not yet. That's it. It's just not yet. If there's no alignment, they're not going to give. Dependence issues, meaning that you don't have enough money coming from other sources, or, like I said, they want you to be sustainable. They invest in organizations who already have some success, that they've a little bit of success going on. They want to improve and accelerate that success. If you're a startup, most of them will have policies that you need at least 2 years of operation before they'll fund you. So, so that's foundations. Okay, so moving on to corporations. Okay, so corporations are really small and large companies. It could be corporate foundations. I put corporate foundations in this category because they tend to align their giving interests. They tend to behave kind of like the corporation. They align with the mothership, if you will, even though they are technically a foundation. And then employee giving programs. So, companies, they really, so giving back supports profits. That's what businesses are about. And it's also supports engaged employees. So studies have found that as employees go out and they serve and they volunteer, they are more likely to be engaged in the workplace. And so companies are heavily investing in getting their employees involved in the community. They'll match gifts for where their employees are volunteering. So, oftentimes if it's depending on the business, it might validate the life experience of the owner. They get to pick, they get to pick the cause that they want to give to. But often it's sort of that natural fit with the line of service, or what they provide is really often what they look for. And it's really, their giving is directed where they have employees or facilities. If they don't have a presence in the community, they're really probably not going to give. So what do they want? They really want co-branding. They want to, if you sell copiers, there's not really anything real great about, it's not sexy like serving children. So they want to co-brand with you. And so they want that. They want impact, and they want engaged employees. So they want those opportunities for their employees. So the best way to connect is really to have those volunteer opportunities. A lot of corporate applications will ask, how are you going to use volunteers? How can you use our volunteers from our company? And so that's a big opportunity with companies. Obviously grant applications or event sponsorships. They like event sponsorships because it's about that co-branding opportunity. It gives them a chance to get their name out more in the community. So as you write those event sponsorships, tell them how big your audience is, tell them how many followers you have, tell them how many people will see, you know, that post. And they like that. They really like that. Okay, so let's talk about how do you identify corporate sources. So they really need to have a physical presence in the, I'm going to go back here a second. You really need to think about the geography thing. Once again, they give where they have a presence. The greater the footprint in the community, the greater the commitment they have to giving back. You know, so sometimes I will do a Google search and say, okay, tell me who has the most employees in this community. And obviously, if you did that for San Diego, it would be the government. You know, the government is the #1 employer. But you know, what are the very large organizations? I also Google, like, tell me all the companies that are headquartered in San Diego. And that's another way to go at it. They were born here, they care about this community, and they're gonna give back to it. So those are two different ways. Wikipedia sometimes will have these lists, and they'll actually have links to those companies' pages, which is really great. You know, consider your cause area, and you know, and then the natural fit as you do your brainstorm and your bubbles. Some of these groups might come out. You know, grocery stores, they like to fund hunger. You know, if they are doing healthcare stuff, they want to fund healthcare services. So there's that natural alignment. They are looking to, most often their criteria is to invest in those sorts of things. But ultimately, it varies. I think companies are a little bit more tricky to search for because they're all different, and the information isn't public like it is on the foundations. You sometimes, I guess just sort of to illustrate it. So Walmart, let's just take Walmart. Walmart has, you know, every store has like a community involvement person, and they get a little bit of money. Every store gets a little bit of money. And then they have a statewide giving, you know, so there's the local, like really like on the ground, and they have the statewide giving. And then sometimes they fund national things. So there's lots of different ways to get in there and ask for money. Sometimes the money can be found in the marketing department. You know, the marketing folks are sprinkling the money around for sponsorships. Sometimes they have a foundation, and that's who coordinates the charitable giving. And so it's hugely variable in companies. And so what I recommend is that you just go to their website, and sometimes they'll hide it. They'll hide how to even learn about these things, but you know, go to the about section and find the about link or about the company. And then a lot of times they'll have a link that will say community involvement, giving back. You know, they'll name it a bazillion different things, but they often will have the information that can tell you how they want to give back in the community. So that's how, you know, companies are just tricky that way. You just got to sort of fish. You got to keep fishing. So this is an example of one of my favorite corporate sources, the Home Depot Foundation. These guys are awesome. They like to fund veterans housing. They like to fund vets. They're very specific. I mean, veterans housing. I mean, and they will give gift cards, in-kind gift cards to organizations. I think it has to be veterans related is my guess, but that's what they like to do. And they have giving at the foundation level, and sometimes they'll have it at the store level. So that's another thing to think about. But what Home Depot Foundation does is they rally their team. They call it Team Depot, and they get these folks, a whole group of folks. They'll come onto your place. It's just almost like the home makeover show. Remember that show? They bring their whole team out and they will transform a facility. And in particular, they love veterans housing facilities. So anyway, every single company is different and what they want to give to. So it just really takes a little bit of research, and I have some tips on how to manage all of this information. So let's move on here. So why do corporations say no? Once again, they don't know you. So you kind of got to figure out how to have a conversation with somebody. They all get bombarded by requests. I could write a denial letter in my sleep. I've had so many, because they have so only so much money and, so many applications. And then of course, if you don't align, make sure that alignment is tight. So I'm going to probably move through this pretty quickly because I know I'm running out of time and there's other important things I want to share. So government, government's a little different in that government's interest is about fulfilling the spirit of law, and they are enmeshed with the nonprofit sector. I got my master's in public administration, and it was very heavily, poli-sci, political science, and in just about every class, they just talked about how in government, you don't have to know how to deliver services. You just need to know how to manage a contract, because they just contract out all the money to nonprofits. And so it becomes a really big source for nonprofits. And the reason they contract it all out is because it's a way to avoid big government. There's this, idea that a big government is not good. And so government and nonprofits are just really closely tied together. So what do they want? They want compliance. It's all about the law, and to fulfill the spirit of law. It may be a government agency, but I would recommend that if you have government money, make friends with those people who are assigned to those departments. While they can't, they do everything they can. They do not influence giving or whether you get the money, but they certainly, if you make friends with them, they can certainly help you understand how to meet all of the requirements and what you need to do to just make it easy, because sometimes the rules are really thick with government. So, why do they say no? You didn't follow directions. Sometimes there's shift in political winds and things will change. And, this is really in the grant space, like your poorly designed program or project. It's got to make sense. So government sources really are, there's just a couple of websites. Grants.gov is all federal. If you want federal money, you go to grants.gov. But I have found it's a pretty cumbersome, overwhelming database. So instead, I would think about those agencies that fund your kind of nonprofit. So if you're arts, I would go to the, National Endowment for the Arts. If you're Health and Human Services, I would go to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services site. And on there, you'll see that they'll have a link to get an idea of what they like to fund, grants and contracts, because eventually you're going to end up at grants.gov, but this is a great way to discern what sort of opportunities there might be for government funding. So that's federal. For state, I would just once again go to the state website, think about your cause area and the department that might be, having programs in that area, and look there, and you can discern if there's opportunities. So we're jumping into this, preparing and managing the results. So how do you manage all this stuff? So here's what I do. I create a prospect search worksheet. It's a Google sheet or Excel file, and I create a few columns at the top, and I'll share one with you that I have. I create a folder. This is what I do before I do the searching. I create a folder so that I can save any downloads or information that I have. And I allocate a couple of hours for this search. It's, it can really zap you to do all of this research. So just take a couple of hours, plan on just diving in. I like to say that this prospect search worksheet that you create is almost like you're taking a rope and wrapping it around your waist, and you're fashioning it around this worksheet, and you're diving into the web. That's your anchor. That's going to be what you're going to pull in from. You're looking for particular information. You're going to pull it onto that worksheet. And so, take a couple hours, and you'll end up in rabbit holes, and there's a lot to read, but it's really fascinating to see what's out there, and then populate the worksheet with these key fields. And then, just take a break, just step away from it for a minute. And you might have to go and do another session of research. It takes a couple of sessions of research, but then once you get a good list, and in that prospect search worksheet, those are sources that you can start to work with. When we do prospect search, we look for about 25 sources. I think that's another important thing to just let you know. Like, if you go out and you find 100 sources, that thing's not going anywhere. You just want to go take a nap. There's nothing you're going to do with it. It's just going to end up in I would recommend it start small, start with 10 sources, just, find and make sure that they are the best sources. And just start to chip away at like building relationships and connections with them. So let me share with you this. I do have it's just a spreadsheet. So no, I think I'm on the wrong one. Sorry, guys. I Zoom all day. I do know how to do this. Okay, I hope it shows up. So this is what our spreadsheets look like. So we have the grant maker name, the due date. If there's a due date, we like to pull that in. Sometimes they have a couple of different cycles, but we would put a due date, whether or not that's a hard deadline. So sometimes they'll say, just send me a 2-page letter. No deadline. I want to know if it's a hard deadline or not. So we have that. If you're open to apply or needs an invite, it's common that sometimes you'll need an invite. They're giving interests. We have a prioritization column, which I'll talk about here in a second. Whether it's a corporation or foundation, what the most common grant award is. We pull in the website link. We'll have some notes sometimes, where they're located. So these are some of the core columns or core information that we'll pull in to help us discern and prioritize sources. So this is what I would use to just anchor that research that you're doing. And then I want to talk about how to prioritize sources. Let's see here. Okay, I'm not seeing the. Okay, there it is. Can you see the PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay, so how do we prioritize sources? So you've got your list of 25 sources. How do we know? How do we know that they're even any good? So it's really about, are they located in the same city as the charity? Do they have history of giving to the cause area? Do you have a connector? And then, the asset size. I mean, those really are your key prospects. And here I have just overlaid those truths, the truths that I went through, that people give where they live, they align their giving with their passions, they say yes more often when there's a connection, and then 80% of your donations are going to come from 20% of donors. So it really, this is how you know that these are a good source. And then you know, so when we rank them, when we prioritize them, obviously this is how we rank them. We look at, okay, number one is a renewal source. And when I say renewal, that means they've made gifts to you before, that they go right to the top of the list. It's about retaining those donors. I'm going to prioritize a renewal application over any new source, because you know those donors, yeah, renewing is really important. The second would be, you know, they're aligned to the cause, they're local, and then I would look at their asset size or their company giving, and you know, their company giving size, because that really helps you understand their capacity and how much money do they have to sprinkle around. The third, I would still go to, it's aligned with the cause, it's local, they have the lower assets. I would prioritize those guys over a national source with a bazillion dollars, if that makes sense. Fundraising is about relationships, and long-term relationships are difficult. and nationally, so last I would put that, sure, there's alignment to the cause, maybe they're national, and then assets, you know, but if they're national, unless they have a lot of giving in your area, I would put them last, because you're competing with everybody around the country, and it's much more difficult to create and sustain a relationship with you know, with the long distance. And so especially when you're talking about new sources, I'd prioritize the guy with smaller assets. The probability of getting a gift is much greater, is what I'm trying to say there. So, and the only exception for ranking is that if you have a relationship or connection, it goes right to the top of the list. That is your lowest hanging fruit, is to find those folks who, you know, there's a connection there. And, you know, but there also has to be alignment to the cause area. Like we said earlier, they might want to fund environment, but you're doing homeless stuff. And so, you know, you're barking up the wrong tree if you know, so you got to think about that too. But a relationship or connection is going to move things forward quite a bit. Okay, so we made it through. So that was a lot to get through. And I hope I have given you some tidbits that you can take away to help you find some new prospects for your organization. So I guess as we close, I just want to give you a couple key takeaways that, you know, there is millions of dollars out there for charitable giving. There are lots of groups out there who want to fund you and the amazing solution that you're providing in the community. You're all doing incredible work, and we live in an abundant world. There is so much money out there, you guys. It's incredible. So in order to get that money, you really got to think about your cause and who cares about it and who's impacted by it. You're looking for your kindred spirits, you know, the people that they care about what you're doing. They really do. And you just need to engage with them. Understand who they are, understand why they want to be involved with you. Why do they care about the cause? Understand their like little quirks. What do they like? And then honor that. Think about how you can approach them knowing what you know about them. Spend 80% of your time cultivating relationships with your top prospects, and that will be more fruitful and satisfying. And then finally, just, you know, follow the directions as you identify these sources. They're telling you what they like. Sometimes it's very prescriptive, and but just follow it, and then you will definitely be able to secure some money for your organization. So, all right, we got 2 minutes. Are there any questions? Just feel free to chime in if there's anything you got.
There was a question in the chat about matching grants and foundations and when to try to, the strategies for aligning that. I thought that was really, that would be helpful.
How would you recommend approaching matching grants from foundations and corporations? So matching grants, I could talk about that for a minute. So matching grant is sometimes that can be really a fun way to challenge some giving from your donors. So you can ask for, so let's say you're going to ask for a $25,000 matching grant from a foundation. And what that means is that you're going to leverage $25,000 from your existing donors to match it, right? Is that what we're talking about here? So that can be a really great, donors who make $25,000 gifts, they like that. Everybody wins. I love it because, they get to leverage, they get to help generate another $25,000. And then the folks who like to make smaller gifts, they love to have their money matched. It's like they get their money doubled. And so it really is, matching grants are a really great way to spur on some giving. And so I think it's you can ask the conversation. I would ask the foundation or the corporation if that's something that they would entertain, but that's a way to structure the gift, if that makes sense. And so it's worth asking because it really is a fun way to leverage additional funds. I think San Diego Gives, tell me, San Diego Gives is doing that, right? So
yeah, we have a lot of matched giving. I think the trick with foundations with a match gift is just the timing, is just, the amount of time that a traditional foundation grant might take, will that work with whatever donor? Anyway, that would be the trick with that. But
yeah, for sure. So, okay, can you speak up? Okay, somebody asked about sustainability. Can you speak more about that piece, sustainability? So sustainability is it's a hot topic for foundations, corporations, and it's really about saying that that you're able to operate. What they don't want to do is they don't want to create a dependence. They don't want to be the only one funding you. And they want to make sure that if they give to you, that your program's going to continue to be around. And so there's ways to address that. So if you can draw on past experience, like, okay, this program's been in operation for 20 years, we've got lots of other sources that are funding it. And, we're asking you to help sustain it or expand it or, whatever you're trying to do. So you can leverage past experience to support sustainability. If it's a brand new program, but not a new organization, I would leverage the experience of the organization, if that helps. If you're a brand new startup, I would I probably would leverage that's more credibility. I would pivot and hey, let me tell you who we got on our team. I would make, here's what our plan is here, and if you've got some startup money or, I would leverage the credibility or what you already have in place if you're a relatively new organization. So anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun. It's been great to see all of you, and I will see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, Janelle. Really, it was very informative, and we're getting lots of nice comments in the chat about how helpful this has been, and we'll share the recording and we'll share the slides and all that good stuff. So if folks want to look at it again or go to different parts, we can.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions, I love fundraising. I talk about it all day, and so please feel free to reach out to me. Can we give my email in the?
Of course.
Yeah, that would be great. And so if anybody wants to connect with me, I'd love to to meet you and learn more about your
You
work.
bet. In fact, what we'll do too is we'll, on the follow-up email that everybody will get, we'll include that.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
we
great.
got it. Yes. Okay. Thank you so
Okay.
much, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Let us know if you have any questions as you're working on your San Diego Gives stuff too. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.